Strap in for a roller coaster ride where curiosity, humor, laughter, and the odd taste of wisdom is applied to understanding the adventure of life.
Welcome to the Rawle and Gene Show, the power of coaching, guided by two knuckleheads who invite you to sit in the front car with them on this ride.
Trust us, it's not as serious as it sounds.
And high fives are included. Welcome to, and today's theme is all about competition. So that's where we're going to talk about internal competition, the discomfort of being in it, and finding a healthy balance within it as well. And then near the end of our show today, we're going to give you a coaching tip about how to be with competition. How's competition showing up in your life this week?
Competition shows up every day.
Ooh,
Every day.
Say more.
Competition is an interesting word. To me, competition is just a tool like love or anything else. A lot of times when we hear it, we fear it because we see how some people practice competition and they're out of balance with it, and we assume that's because of competition. But for me, competition this week is like challenging myself. How can I do what I say I want to do in the most efficient way that's going to feel like I've accomplished something? And for me, that's what competition is. Another C word, to accomplish. You want to accomplish something. Because when you look at competition, a definition of competition, then it'll tell you, C, compete. And it's any time you're trying to do something that someone else is trying to do. And we use words like you're trying to win or to beat someone else. But even when you're trying to do something that someone else is trying to do, you're really just competing with yourself in regards to, am I clear with what I want? The challenge that's in front of me. And a lot of times that's where competition comes from, because there's a challenge that you're facing.
I like this reflection of bringing it internally and seeing how competition can be applied to, I hear you say challenge. I also hear clarity, like internally, is if you're going to be in competition with yourself, or how do you bring that clarity to competition to say, this is what I'm striving for. This is what I'm trying to gain from it. And then why, and who do I want to be in that pursuit of it
and,
all?
And it's a constant thing. Look, competition is around us. Competition is part of life. Some people want to argue it isn't. You just look around. Trees compete with each other to get to the highest point, to get as much sunlight as they can. Animals compete with each other for their own survival, for territory. It is not just something that we do. It's part of this world. The sun and the moon are in competition. This is why the moon is pulling away, because the moon wants its own gravitational force, so it's slowly moving away from the earth. So competition is healthy. It's just how we use it, how we view it. And for me, again, when I think of competition, usually comes from a challenge. What's the challenge that you're facing? What's the challenge that's taking you out of your comfort zone? That's not placing you in discomfort. And that's why a lot of times competition comes around. It places you in a discomfort. You're trying to figure out what you want. So that's why I say, if you look at the challenges, when you talk about clarity, what is the challenge asking of you? So like this week, my challenge was, you and I are building this coaching show in our coaching business. So this week I was challenged to put more information out, to put myself out. What am I needing to do? Not so much in competition with you or any other coach. What is it that I want to do to accomplish this week for that goal of wanting to make this show better and to make our coaching system better? And that has nothing to do with anyone other than myself, right? Am I clear in the goals that we've established? Do I understand my role within the goals we've established? What are the things must I do within what we've established? And no one else can do that but me, right? Because if I don't get it done, it doesn't get done, and then I don't yield the results and the benefits that I want. And then I only have myself to blame. And if you extrapolate that into the external world, it's the same thing. It's like when I was coaching football, I used to always tell my boys, yeah, we're playing against another team, but the true competition is individual. You're going to trust how you've been trained and what you've learned. And then do you have the courage to put that out there and accept what comes from it? We always want to test our mantle and see how we measure up to some degree. It's like you and I building this business. It's not that other coaches aren't good or other coaching businesses aren't good, but for what we're looking to do, what do we want to do? Are we clear in our mission and our goals and our objectives and how we want to be in the challenge of building this. So for me, competition is always first and foremost an internal mechanism that you have to be clear with in regards to what are you looking to achieve? What are you looking to what are you hoping to get out of it? What will success look like for you if you do these things?
Love that. It's like you're constantly competing with the person in the mirror versus, to me, that's a healthy way of looking at it. Is like, how can I compete with the previous me? And actually, my daughter's dance teacher said something to her yesterday. Is my goal is that you're a better dancer when you walk out the door than when you came in the door. And I thought that was such a healthy frame to share with her. She's 10. She loves dancing. She's doing a hip hop solo and just is doing something that's so far out of her like comfort zone because this solo is really pushing her. And it's exciting. And she came back to the truck just going, oh, that dance teacher's mean in all the best ways, Dad. Oh,
That's a good.
this is hard. Like she just huffing and puffing, and then she shared that little insight, and she's just like, I'm going up against kids that she looks up to in this potentially now with her solo, and it's still this reflection of yeah, they're all in this dance, they'll all be in these dance competitions, but you truly are just dancing against yourself. This you all get a score, and the same thing in life is in some shape or form, everyone's getting a score. But it comes down to your technique, your ability to put on a show and pull all that together. That's your score. And it just so happens your score may be higher or lower than somebody else's. And it's actually not a reflection of the two dances, just as in life. It's a reflection of what you put into it and how much timing and preparation, technique, and all these things that go into it. That's that competition of I'm competing against my own score. And do I know how I'm being scored? Because then I can prepare, I can work, and I can train, I can do all the things to keep leveling that up in a very healthy way.
It is, to me, very healthy if you step out of thinking of winning or losing or failing, as opposed to whatever it is I'm doing, whether I'm looking to build a business or I'm competing in sport. How can I make myself better every day to achieve what it is I want to do? Because once you figure that out, it's like, again, going back to coaching football. Yeah, we are going to compete against someone else, but we're competing against another team that understands the same criteria, the rules of the game. Here's the gridiron. So this is the field of competition, and the field of competition has guidelines and rules, and we're all subjected to it. So now it's up to the teams that perform and makes the most plays when the situation really matters. Can you rise to the occasion? Can you put aside whatever fears you may have, whatever low vibing thoughts you may have, to exercise what you've been trained to do, whether it's in sports, whether it's in business, whether it's in life. Lions and hyenas compete all the time for territory and food. Like I said, different plants compete for territorials. Pollinators compete to pollinate. Without competition, we don't have a life. And I think a lot of times people fear competition because sometimes they're more jealous and envious of someone else doing something that they wish they could do, not realizing they can do it.
Oof.
But have you dedicated yourself to training and developing your skills and abilities to do that? Do you have a clear vision of what you want to do? Say I want to run a marathon. Right? That's a challenge that I'll accept. That would take me, that won't happen, but that would take me completely.
Yeah, I don't ever say that. You could. That would take you out of your comfort zone.
But if that's something that I really want to do, then I'm accepting the challenge. It's taking me out of my comfort zone. Okay, fair enough.
There's a few things I'm hearing here, Rawle, is there's this acceptance of being outside of the comfort zone. And I think this ties back to, we've done a few shows on certainty versus uncertainty. And that's those two things is like, you may be uncertain of what it's going to take, but can you be certain that you can withstand and learn outside of that? The other part that you were talking about too is like that jealousy and insecurity when you're trying to define what it is you want to do and you're looking externally. The flip of that, the antidote, I think, to that is humility, is looking at them going, oh, wow, like this is accomplishable. this can be done. Then going back, do I really want to do this? Yes, no. Okay, yes. What are they doing that I can learn from them? How can I be like, oh man, there's somebody that I can put in my circle. Either they may never know that they're part of my circle or not, but I'm going to continually put myself around that type of person because that's who I want now to be. And that changes. You talked about low vibe, high vibe is like, well, what's the right vibe for the competition and the places you want to go? And are you putting yourself in there and surrounding yourself with that versus looking at it going, I'm jealous that they got something that I don't? Be like, here's the thing. They just
Yeah.
worked on it before you.
And
That's it.
if I can
That
add
is it.
add on to that, it's not so much. I agree. Like when I was coaching very early on in my coaching career, I would look at teams that achieved at a very high level. So those are the teams that I would use as my mentor, my touchstone. What are they doing that we can do? Because what they're doing, we can do. And it's not that I want to become that team, but there are things that they're doing that I could learn from, like you just said. So I'm not looking to become them. What I'm looking to do is, what can I learn from you? Because I respect what you do. I appreciate how you go about your business. So what can I learn from you? There's things that person, that team would do as well that you don't agree with. So you don't have to include that. But there are things that they're doing because obviously you have identified that they've reached a level of success that you would like to get to. So what are the components that they're doing that you can now incorporate into your game? So to me, that's how you deal with the jealousy or envy. Is number one, recognizing, okay, first of all, that's my own internal mechanism. That's me kind of feeling bad because they're doing something that I think I can't do. That's not true. I can actually do it if that's what it is I want to do. Now, if you want to do it, find out, talk with them. How did you get to this level? I spoke to many coaches, and then they'll say, this is my philosophy, and this is what I do, and this is how I organize practice, and so forth. I go, I like that, I like that, I don't like that, so I don't have to worry about that. And then you incorporate it into your arsenal, and then you make it your own. And then if what they're doing is bang on the way it is, duplicate it. One of the best ways we learn is vicarious learning. Monkey see, monkey do. So why not look at people that are achieving and at a level that you would like to get to, so you can learn from them. You're not going to take everything that they do, but the things that resonate with you, you can then bring into your arsenal and go, okay, how do I make this mine? What do I need to do to sharpen my saw around this skill set?
Yeah. What I like about that is it's just like you're taking and integrating the pieces that work for you from that place of inspiration, from that place of acknowledging and accepting that what you're trying to accomplish is accomplishable. And now you're starting to take the little pieces and going, what's right for me, and trying it on and going, do I still like this? Constantly going back to that check as well. Do I like this? Is this still being in integration with who I want to be, and in alignment with who I want to be and how I want to show up? And the other part that you put in there is, I think it's Ed Milet, at least I've caught this from him. He says it's caught, not taught. So if you're being around that, you're going to catch what they're doing versus them coming in and teaching you. And then you to take that down onto the other people in your life. They're going to see you doing these things and catch it and go, what's happening there? Because we could, the old saying, do as I say, not as I do. This is competition's all about flipping that around. It's here's what I'm doing. Now, does it match what I'm saying?
Early on in my coaching career, when I was still here in Toronto doing it, because I started as a coach here in Toronto, I just knew it was after I did my the initial internal work, and this, okay, this is what I want to do. But I had no idea what that meant and how to do it. But I had a friend that was coaching, executive coaching. I asked her if I could talk with her and then maybe spend time with her and listen to the things that she said. Actually, one of her clients was good enough to let me sit in on a meeting, so I was able to just listen to her questioning, her tempo, how she greeted her clients, just everything. I just took it all in. And the pieces that really resonated with me, I held on. The other pieces, I let go. Right? So it's important because all I'm doing is gathering inspiration. That's how I look at it. I'm gathering inspiration. So then I can take that inspiration and add it to my motivation. What are you motivated? I'm motivated to be a really good football coach. If I'm motivated to be a really good football coach, what does that mean? What do I need to do? What skills am I lacking in? What abilities am I lacking in it that I need to develop so I can become a good football coach? What is it about me that says you're a good coach? So really doing an inventory in yourself and going, do I have the skills and abilities to be a good coach? What's my vision for being a coach? What do I hope to accomplish? All these things. So it's just gathering inspiration from wherever, from others, from examples that have come before, and taking that and bringing it into your, because I can't motivate anyone. You can't really motivate. You can only inspire, and take that inspiration to add to your own internal motivation and going, okay, I need to do this. If I do these things and I do it consistently and I do it with a joy, be playful with it, you will yield positive results. And I think you'll then start understanding competition in a different way. So,
yeah, and I love all of that, Rawle, is bringing you back down to that being. Like, is this something that you enjoy? If it is, are you willing to do the hard work? Are you willing to be uncomfortable and in that place of discomfort in service of your growth, in service of your learning, in service of those who you claim you want to help, be it in whatever role you are, an executive, a parent, a husband, a father, a janitor? It goes all the way down. These are all your choices. You can stay safe and stay set in your place, or you can be like, I want to be the best at fill in the blank, and why. I think those two are really important components to lighting that fire of motivating yourself and being in competition with the past you. Because if you still hold the I want to do this and the why very clearly, the rest can start to take care of it if you put the work in. The work is the sweat equity that you're going to put in towards being that and being in competition. Simon Sinek has a great part in The Infinite Game about the value of having a worthy competitor. It's like a worthy competitor is something that helps iron sharpen iron, or steel sharpen steel, right? Like it's actually very healthy to be like, here's why I honor you. I see what you're doing. I want to beat you because it's fun. You want to beat me too? Yes, we're going to make each other better along the way, and think about what we're going to accomplish. And if we look at each other as going, I honor the hell out of everything that you're doing, and it makes me want to be +1 and figure out how to continue to grow in these ways, and going, I see you, you're a little bit ahead of me. This means I can
and just accept the fact that you don't have to accept it, but I invite you to accept the fact that the pie is big enough for us all to eat.
Well, actually, one of our viewers has a question. So Neil says, can a worthy competitor be an industry peer? 100%. 100%. Right? Especially if this ties back to what Rawle was saying about the pie is big enough for everybody. The pie is as big as how willing people are willing to serve and create more pie versus steal pie from everybody else. I'm holding up this phone.
Why do I have an iPhone? I forget the politics.
Because you make poor choices, but that's beside the point.
I actually have a Samsung because I was given this by my niece. But ever since I started using a smartphone, I've always liked iPhone. I don't know, maybe it's just because it was the first phone I got and I stuck with it. But I have tried other phones. And the reason why I have an iPhone is because of how it operates, how I feel when I use it. It's simple for me to use. And some people go to marketing. I go, yeah, we're in business. If you're in business, you're going to market. You're marketing to position your product. And then you're positioning your product with the masses. And then the masses will determine whether your product is going to be successful if it produces benefits, if it meets their incentive. They'll gladly take money out of their pocket to give it to you. But if they don't know you exist, they don't know anything about your product, and then you're sitting there going, why is this person getting the market shares? Because maybe your product isn't good. So competition can yield good innovation. Competition yields choice, right? Don't get confused with people being out of balance with competition. Competition is a good thing. Like I said, if we didn't compete, this world wouldn't exist. It's all around us, competition. You see it every day when birds are flying around looking for the worms or whatever it is that they eat. It's around us. It's how you use it.
Well, if we didn't have competition, we wouldn't be enabled to actually talk. Hey, everybody who's watching, is like without competition,
Yeah.
we would never got here. We would not have these tools, plain and simple, because somebody saw a problem, and this tool we use is a StreamYard. There's
Oh,
Riverside. There's tons of other tools out here that do the same similar thing, and they're all like adding to the pie of what we can do by being able to share our voices on this thing called the internet. Was actually built in competition because we're all here on the internet because of like a military initiative
And like I said,
to be able to communicate faster than
and
the enemy.
this is why
End
we
of
have this
story.
show. We have a show because we think we have a good idea, and so far it's been proven to be a good idea. We want to grow it and we want to get bigger. We have to. This is why every week I promote the show and I invite people to the show. It's not that I'm saying you got to come to my show because the other shows suck. No, not at all. Not at all. Are we the right voices for you?
So many good
The way
shows.
we see what we're positioned, does that work for you? If you find value in it, you'll show up here. If you find value in someone else's show, you'll go there. And I'm good with that because the choice lies with you. This is what a lot of people in society don't realize. Vote with your you vote with your dollars every day. But are you doing it consciously or are you just doing it subconsciously? Make smart choices. It's the same thing for you internally, right? If you're not really being clear with what you want, how you're going to go about it, and the value that you can produce, then people aren't going to necessarily want to deal with you, right? It's not a right or wrong, a good or bad. Are you positioning something of value, right? People love to dump on Amazon and Walmart and all these companies. Oh, they're so big and these billionaires are taking advantage. Nobody put a gun to anyone's head. And if they didn't present a value, you're not going to take money out of your pocket and give it to them to buy an iPhone. So to me, we need to re-examine how we look at competition. And whether you're playing a team sport or individual sport, you're still competing, right? Team sport, you do it with others. Individual sport, you usually, on the day of competition, you're competing against yourself, against the field. But even you standing there by yourself, you didn't get there by yourself. You had a coach. And you might have other components and other people in your life that help you to get to that point. So that's your team. But the day of a competition, you're the one actually doing it. But you didn't get there by yourself. But whether you're in an individual or team setting, you're the only one that can do it. Are you going to do your job so you don't let the team down? Are you going to do your job if you're competing individually so you don't let yourself down and the people that are supporting you to hold you there to be able to compete individually? And to me, it's the same thing that applies in business and in life.
Yeah. It just like screams to this quote that's on the gym. One of the gyms I go to is that you can have results or excuses, but you can't have both. And it was a quote from Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's just something that really resonates. It's like you can get in there and you may not get initially the results or every time you're up at bat, because we were talking about on one of the other shows is like professional baseball players, like what 40% is like a real like high level of hitting the ball. Be like, right? That's the same thing in life, but are you prepared to attempt to get the hit on the ball? And learning, part of that competition, part of the healthy component of competition is realizing the friction of discomfort, and the friction is actually the required part of the growth. It's an incredible important ingredient that goes along with it. And part of that friction is when you miss, when you've tried your best and you're like willing to go, what am I going to learn from this versus what am I going to beat myself up over this? How am I going to like manifest not hitting the ball ever again, but actually going, okay, I want to learn. And I think the real power within that friction component of when you miss the 70% that you're going to miss, can you get that space from missing to learning and reintegrating that learning as short as possible. You can still say, oh, fuck. You say, oh, fuck, and go, this is what I did. Maybe my grip in life was wrong. Maybe the way I was viewing it, maybe my stance, however that was coming into. Yes, we're using the baseball metaphor, but
But
this
it
applies to
applies. Baseball is
everything
part of
in your
life.
life.
You should understand. I was
You're
going to say,
gonna
if you understand the game of
back.
baseball, you really understand the game of life. I think part of
Yeah.
why people, some people, not all, some people fear competition is because of the failure factor. If I did this, suppose I
Yeah.
fail.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we need to have words so we can communicate, but failure is part of success. Failure is part of competition. Because when you fail, and whether it's in sports or business, then you have to stop and go, okay, why did I fail? Why did we fail?
Mhm.
So when I was thinking about competition, because we were
Salmon.
supposed to do the show last week and we went off script, but failure allows you to innovate, allows you to go, okay, this was the goal, this is what we did, this was the process to try to implement this goal, and this is how we implemented it. This is the results that came from it. And the results that came from it, from our definition, says we failed. Okay, why did we fail? Let's go back and look. Was the goal, was it true? Was it just? Was it right? And if it is, the answer is yes. Okay. Did we have the right vision? Did we have the right goals in place to bring that about? And then what are the, not the objectives, but what are the practices? What are the processes that we need to put in place? And then let's look at the implementation. Maybe it was part of the implementation, how we executed our plays, how we executed our marketing plan. Once you understand and you can learn from those things, then you can go back and adjust it because you said, why? What I want is still valid, is still real, is still just. I just need to now tweak it. And you would only get that, you only got that intel because you failed. And believe it, that's why baseball is a great analogy. You fail 7 out of 10 times. When I'm just talking from a batting standpoint, they pay guys millions of dollars to be a 330 hitter. 33% of the time you're succeeding out of 10. That means you're failing 7 times. And every time you strike out or you don't get a hit, it's an opportunity to go back and learn. Did I watch enough film? Did I understand the pitcher, his delivery, when he releases his delivery point? Am I picking up the ball properly? What do I need to do to train my eyes better? My hand-to-eye coordination. There's so many things you can learn. It's not so much that that person was better than you in that moment, but they're not better than you. Because you were both signed off on competing, my skill against your skill. In this moment, your skill trumped mine. Fair enough.
And that ties it back to the concept you said, is it right, wrong, or just? Is pull it back. Is it still worthy of your time and your attention, right? We talk about paying with your dollars. Be like, you're paying with your attention as well. Are you putting the attention on being prepared? And however you step up to whatever plate in life you need to step up to, have you prepared for it? Because what's going to show up is going to be a direct reflection of how you prepared and what you prepared. And then are you learning to take lessons from that swing and adjust how you're preparing? Like Rawle says, it's a process. It is a process and it's not fixed. And it requires, like we was saying earlier, friction is an incredible, important ingredient to say, where do I need to adjust in my preparing, in my planning, and in my execution?
Yeah.
Where's the friction? And how am I then adjusting it? Knowing friction is always going to be there. It's just you kill one problem, 2 more show right up in its place because it's going, oh, you're good at solving problems.
Keep going.
Good.
Exactly.
Keep going.
So that's what I was saying. I wrote this down last week when I was thinking about it. The benefits to competition, or remove the word competition and put challenge in there. Whatever. It's the same difference. Right. So innovation allows you to be innovative in understanding your practices and your process and go, what needs to change? What do I need to eliminate? Most of it is really good, but what do I need to add to get me to the next level of where I want to succeed? It breeds choice, right? Because of that failure, you now have a choice, right? You don't have to keep trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You have a choice. Oh, I could round out the hole or the square part to make it fit if that's what I want. What's the other thing I wrote? it also allows you to be more mindful to what you're offering. It also
Oh, I love
allows you
that
to be
part.
more mindful to what you're offering. So when I'm, like I said, competing with myself, when I'm not doing the things that I want to do, I don't sit there and beat myself up. What I do though is I step into a mindful state and go, okay, why didn't you do what you were supposed to do this week? There's nobody else to blame. I'm not even blaming myself. I want to learn.
Yeah.
What didn't
There's
I
no
do? When I don't make the time that's dedicated to putting out a certain amount of effort, I am not going to get the results I want. So why would you think you should get this result if you're not putting in the time? So part of being mindful is about being really honest with yourself, because you usually know
oof.
what you're doing, what you're not doing. And then we like to lie and
Yeah.
pretend we're fooling everyone else, but you're only lying and fooling yourself.
Oh, it's I think we've talked about the pain cave before, but what I hear here is this is like stepping out of the
Yes.
shame cave. Is instead of shaming yourself for I didn't do it, be like explore and get curious about well, what was coming up? What happened within me that made me make the
Yeah.
choice to not do this? Is there resistance? Is there friction to this uncertainty of what's on the other side of this growth and this challenge? Maybe I need to explore what that is and connect to who I could be on the other side of this versus who I am today and going, do I like this gap? Am I okay with the space that I'm in? Is stay safe, stay set, bet on yourself. What are you going to choose here? And none of that is wrong. It's which one is most worthy to you in this
Which
moment
one
and
more
knowing,
aligns with what you say you want and your vision, right? And then so I talk about innovation, choice, being mindful, and then it allows you to fine tune your processes and your practices, right? And then the last thing that I wrote down was adaptable. It allows you to be adaptable,
mm,
allows you to pivot when you see that, okay, we've been going down this path and that's not working. Oh, we don't have to continue going down this path. We can do a hard right turn if we want to. So it allows you to be adaptable. But adaptability is not about shaming yourself. It's about going through the process. It really allows you, to be honest with you, critical thinking and how to break down problems to understand what it is that I need to do. This isn't about shame. How can I critically think? How can I be mindful in my thinking to understand the competition that I just took part in that didn't yield the results that I want, but it's still valid? I just need to fine tune it. I don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I just need to keep the baby and change the bathwater. Right? For me, competition is a very healthy thing. And it's like everything in life, it's about balance, right? It's about balance. But ultimately, you're always in competition with yourself.
oh, and what I like about that word adaptability, Rawl, that you share is it also means that you don't have to hold on to anything
Mhm.
too tightly. Is right? Like it doesn't those things don't necessarily
Yeah.
define you because you can be like, "Oh, either my how is not working or I can look at my outcome and my why and go, what do I need to make so I'm actually motivating and inspiring myself towards this? Because if nothing about this inspires me, I can actually let it
Exactly.
go if I'm adaptable. Or this still inspires me and I'm still learning the how I'm going to get there. And I can hold that really loosely without being like, "Ah, I'm a failure for not
Hmm.
figuring it out yet." Be like, shit, I'm a person on the road trying to become that person. That's exciting. What a story that I'm about to tell. And that's a much different experience and perspective to have around that. And allows you, will allow you to actually move gracefully through that
Yeah.
being adaptable.
See, to me, one of the biggest things is when we look at competition, we look at other people that are succeeding. Like in the poetry world, I have a number of my friends that are getting published all over the place in anthologies and so forth. And I think part of our human makeup is naturally to be resentful when people are succeeding. Those thoughts show up.
Mm.
But I've learned you don't have to give in to those thoughts. Those thoughts, some of them just show up. They show up with me. I have friends, a good friend of mine out of the islands. She's doing really well with poetry. But then again, she puts in the work. She's constantly submitting stuff all over the place, constantly submitting. I don't, because that's not what I want. But when I see she gets a new thing, the lizard brain in me is like, it's no. Number one, that's a thought. That's one of those irrational thoughts that just show up. I don't have to give it any energy. And when it does show up, I go, really? You didn't do the work, but you want the results? This is how I talk to myself all the time. So I'm constantly being
Yeah.
mindful because I know a lot of thoughts just show up. I don't have to give them energy because those types of thoughts aren't aligned with my goals and my vision. So why would I give them any energy whatsoever? So I said competition yields so much,
Preach.
but when you just fear it without really understanding it. So for those that are listening and for those that will be listening, I invite you to do some research around competition because it's a natural energy in life. We're competing constantly. How we compete, that's up to us. That's the choice.
That's the choice.
Right. And I choose to do things now that bring joy, that I have fun. You guys see us when we come on the show, and we're always laughing because of the intro. But you should see some of our production meetings because we're always laughing. Well, 99% of the times we're laughing. And even when we're not laughing and we get into serious moments and we have moments of contention, we're still learning from each other because, again, that friction, look what it yields. And that friction that may come between Gene and I, that friction is not bigger than us because we have a goal that we're going to be respectful to each other. We respect each other. We respect the skills and tools that each of us have that are different from the other. It's not that Gene's better or I'm better. We both have our skill set that's suited for us. And we have a skill set that blends well together for most parts. And when it doesn't, we talk it out. That friction yields so much.
Well, to add to this, because we're also in competition with the clock right now. So I want to pin this down here and then move on to our coaching tip to let everybody get on with their day. One of the things about how we've dealt with friction is we identified that up front and we continually revise that going, we're going to have conflict. How do we want to be in conflict? And we put that between us because we are in competition of building this business, of building our podcast, of doing some wonderful things together, which are going to result in greatness. But we also identified up front, we knew because we are trying to be in competition with our old selves and building something, we were going to hit conflict. And how are we going to be? And I think we've done an incredible job of holding place without, Rawle says, we can hold judgment around it without being judgmental. And I think that's a real powerful distinction. And we bring that up in a lot of our production meetings too, because there will be times where we're close on what our goal is, but then we have to to fight it out to figure out how are we going to sand this down and make it right.
I told my son this the other day when he was going through some challenges. I said, life is a fight. Life is a fight. So if life is a fight, then be a fighter. But what kind of fighter do you want to be? Be a fighter that you're always striving to surpass your best, to make yourself the best you, not better than someone. I am not better than anyone, but I do have skills and abilities that I have that others don't. And they have skills and abilities that they have that I don't. So how am I making myself better with each breath?
And Rawle, I think the one thing that you said there that I want to champion you on is you are better than somebody.
Yes.
You're better than the old you, the previous you.
That's why I love you.
Right? You are better
This is why I love you.
Somebody else.
You see these things.
The old
you see these.
I know, but
I got you. Boo, you make me feel so good. But it's true. It's true. So anyway, I think we're at
we're at the witching hour here. We're really competing with ourselves to keep it under the 40-minute mark. That's all right. So now we're going to flip into our coaching tip. 45 minutes. Here we are. 45 minutes is fine. We're here. So our coaching tip of the week around competition are some questions. What's your relationship with competition? How do you experience competition daily? What do you do when you face competition with self, with others, with the market? What roles does competition play in setting, working towards, and achieving your goals? And how you choose to play is completely and totally up to you. You got to be able to be right and support with that for your worthy competition.
Compete, people.
We hope that you take these questions, think upon them between now and our next show.
Oh, before
Until
you go,
next
though,
time,
before we go, Gene, before we go,
oh,
those questions that Gene's
what is it?
position, I invite you to not just take him away and answer him yourself. For those that are listening and those who will be listening, drop us a comment on the Peel Back page with your answers. I would love to hear some of your answers. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll read it on
maybe
an episode.
we've been talking about content. What we
Yeah,
should do with these tips is turn
yeah.
them into a weekly
So
poll.
would love to hear your answers
So
to
there we
those
go.
questions, because those are very good questions that Gene's posed. So anyway,
All right. So everybody, we hope that you find your worthy competition and you are able to define your role with it, find the clarity, find your space and peace with friction and everything else that we've shared today. Until next time, make sure to follow us on YouTube and as well on the podcast. You'll find the Rawle and Gene Show, The Power of Coaching, everywhere you listen to podcasts. Hit that subscribe and follow, and we will see you all next week. Till then. Oh, one last thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.